Well, again, welcome all. Look forward to sharing a little bit of the outlook on where we're headed and getting your reactions and having some conversation about it. So what we'd like to do today is really to share a top-line view of the recommended strategy for SVP Portland over the next 3 years or so. And as we've sat back and looked at it, in many ways, it'll feel quite familiar to the direction and the effort that we've been working on for a while. But in other ways, it's actually quite different. We think very stretching and will require us to be courageous, bold, and persistent, and to try some new things, to see if we can help them make a difference. So what have we done over the last 18 to 24 months to actually arrive at this place? We've actually had a lot of change, in many ways in all of our lives. The pandemic, hit us all in different ways. We've emerged in different ways. That's true for each of us, our families, for SVP, and for our communities. In SVP Portland, I wanted to just chat quickly about 5 things that we've consciously changed from the past and are learning how to adapt them to our work. We've strategically tried very much to better center the communities we serve, in our work, how we can best influence systems change in the communities, in which we work, and how we can better operate, more efficiently operate to achieve our goals while at the same time advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and have an impact on social justice. We've also changed our board governance model. We've slimmed down our board to just 5 members, of which Larry and I are 2, so that we can focus on minimum functional requirements, which really speak to fiduciary and duty of care responsibilities, but have recognized and encouraged historical duties that the board may have taken on to be assumed, developed, and decided by other parties within SVP, partners, staff, community. We've also established a functioning dynamic team concept that has brought together groups of community partners, and staff from SVP to really tackle focused, critical, strategic pathways. And through that work, to shift power to those groups to make decisions for the people who know the problems best and actually know the solutions best. We've run 2 of those dynamic teams now. The work that you'll see today is actually the output of the last one that was commissioned, bringing together a group of people with very diverse and very relevant experience, for the direction setting process that we undertook. We've also changed our partnership model to help build a more diverse and representative partnership community and remove hurdles to joining up with SVP, that might have prevented some of that in the past. And lastly, we've just commissioned another dynamic team to look at the business model of SVP and what might be appropriate to consider to diversify our revenue streams, to again enlarge the base of experience and expertise and diversity, that we touch, in the SVP work, and build our capacity for bigger and better and longer lasting, changes in the community. So lots of change. We've learned a lot through all of this. We still are. It hasn't been without its challenges. We've learned many things that have worked. We've run across many things that didn't work as we expected. We've also learned that some of this change process takes time, more time perhaps than we had expected. But nonetheless, We are here, we're persistent, we're moving forward, and I'm going to turn this over to Lauren to give you a little bit more in depth of the story of our implementation plan as we move forward over the next 3 years or so. Over to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Bob. So LB is going to launch our PowerPoint and manage that. Thank you, LB. Sorry, now I have to rearrange my screen. Okay, we're good. So I want to start with actually a little story about SVP because I think it illustrates really who we are as a trusted capacity building partner. And so for the past year or so, we've had truly a remarkable team of partners, including several in this room, Carolina, Val, Elisa, who rolled up their sleeves to work alongside the leadership of our community partner, Community Action Organization, to develop a compelling and ambitious, yet also realistic organizational business plan for growth. And the leadership team of Community Action recently presented this plan to a group of SVP partners and staff and some key community stakeholders for feedback. And after the presentation, their director of family stability came up to me and said, Lauren, you need to know that SVP is like an angel. You delivered exactly the right resources at exactly the right time, and the type of true partnership that Community Action needed to realize our vision for growth. Exactly the right resources at exactly the right time, and type of true partnership that Community Action needed to realize our vision for growth. And so I share this with you all today for a couple of reasons. One, I think the gratitude should be directed to you all because you are the main characters in the movie. We couldn't do the work that we do without partners who, again, like Val and Elisa and many of you here today, roll up your sleeves and are willing to, wanting to show up with humility and engage in true partnership to help our community partners realize their goals for growth. But the other is because it's relevant to this conversation about our implementation plan and kind of where we're headed. And so one of the questions that we've been wrestling with internally is, how do we not only expand our reach to more social entrepreneurs and nonprofits like Community Action, so they in turn can reach more young children, but also how can we help change the inequitable system in which they operate? So I'm going to speak to our new implementation priorities over the next 12 minutes or so, and then we're going to open up for questions and discussion. So some context for why we do the work that we do. The reality is that Multnomah County is a difficult place in many ways to raise a family. We know that more than 60% of households with children under the age of 5 aren't actually able to meet basic needs without assistance. Oregon is one of the most expensive states for both childcare and preschool. And until very recently, public funds provided preschool only for families in deepest poverty, so reaching about 15% of our 3- and 4-year-olds locally. This combination of economic pressures and limited assistance means that access to quality preschool is out of reach for just too many families. Additionally, children in communities of color are disproportionately impacted by poverty. 65% of children living in poverty are children of color, even though they only make up 41% of our population. And the pandemic has exacerbated disparities in both resources and opportunity for many families, and especially for families of color, creating an even more uncertain future for our children. However, research shows that we receive up to 13% return by investing in early childhood education through better outcomes in social skills and health, economic productivity, education, and reduced crime. We know that the most economically efficient time to develop skills is in the early years, and much more so than remediation later in life. So this is one of the reasons why SVP remains committed to early childhood. So before getting into where we're headed, I also want to just take a moment to pause and acknowledge the progress we've made so far as a community and a few places where SVP has served as a key catalyst, convener, and capacity builder. So you'll see several here. This includes, we were a catalyst, and Mark here was absolutely integral, really the champion who, behind the convening and then ultimately the production of the Preschool for All report and the community-driven plan. We were key in the success of securing public funds through the ballot measure, the 20 million from the state in support of culturally specific early childhood programs, and more recently, the Child Care Shared Services Alliance and Child Care Facilities Initiative. So there's been remarkable progress. And in fact, we could spend the next hour simply talking about, celebrating the progress that's been made, but we're here to talk about the future. So what I want to talk about now is the several significant obstacles that remain to achieving universal preschool. So I'm going to name 4 right now. The first is the challenge with access to quality and culturally responsive programs. And this is at scale. We know there are at least 12,000 seats we're looking to fill. Insufficient early childhood workforce, a shortage of classrooms and facilities. And then the fourth is a drastic underinvestment in BIPOC-led and serving organizations. So I cited earlier the statistic that even though 41% of children under the age of 6 are children of color, philanthropy invests less than 10% in communities of color. So given these significant challenges, along with community feedback that we've received about SVP's unique value add and the unique roles that we play, in 2022, we recommitted to our focused goal of ensuring that our community has the capacity to make universal preschool a reality. So moving forward, we will strategically leverage our unique capabilities. And these were considered by the dynamic team that Bob referenced as we evaluated the highest and best use of our resources for impact. So the first is our track record. We have a demonstrated ability to identify root issues and then build the capacity or help build the capacity, in using our model of true partnership, both nonprofits and initiatives that offer promising and community-driven and culturally relevant solutions. The second is our credibility. We are a trusted go-to resource in the social sector, and more, we are being recognized for walking our talk of advancing social justice and racial equity. The third is our expertise. We have diverse skill sets amongst our partners, and we have a unique our business acumen, and that's combined with our understanding of the nonprofit and early childhood sectors. And then the fourth is our network. We have an incredible network. We have strong relationships across sectors, we have convening power, and we have the ability to influence the flow of resources. So kind of in sum, by considering our focus goal of universal preschool, the challenges to achieving it, and our strengths, we identified, and by we, it's the dynamic team that Bob referenced, with input from a whole number of stakeholders over a period of 6 months, 3 implementation priorities. And so these include supporting the creation and expansion of programs positioned to scale, a plan for growing our early childhood education workforce and the number of classrooms, and then closing resource gaps. So now I'm going to dive into just a little bit more detail around each of these strategies. So the first, this is really our bread and butter. We invest human, social, and financial resources in preschool providers from proof of concept to scale. And I say there are 3 specific pathways. The first is identifying programs that can expand. An example of this is our partnership with Latino Network to help build a business plan to grow their early childhood program, Juntas Aprendemos, from 3 programs in local classrooms to now 22 across the state and on a continued path to scale. The second, identifying organizations, existing organizations that can add preschool programs. So an example of this being the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, IRCO, and our work doing a lit review and local market research, and then working with them to co-create a business plan for an entirely new preschool designed specifically for immigrants and refugees. And then the third is helping brand new organizations open preschools. So an example of this being our newest community partner, Learning Train Academy, seeking our help in startup phase. So they have their first preschool open that just opened this fall and has a vision to replicate down the road. So second strategy really relates to our roles, or our unique roles, conducting landscape assessment and gap analyses, and then plans to address the gaps in 3 systemic areas. The first is workforce development. So we are actually just beginning to assess the workforce sector, early childhood workforce, particularly in Washington County, to determine root problems and gaps, and then determining the plan and resources needed to address the gaps. Second is facilities, and many of you are aware of, we played a role in catalyzing the launch and then incubation of the Child Care Facilities Initiative. And then the third is we're supporting the business case and strategy development of Washington County's Preschool for All effort, with a focus on engaging the business community. And our third strategy is our role in helping unlock philanthropic and government resources that benefit preschool programs and initiatives that are led by and serving communities of color. And so this includes really the specific actions, increasing our community partner access to financial expertise through our partners, and also access to capital. And an example is kind of our emerging partnerships with financial institutions. The second is convening or participating in convenings with local philanthropic institutions to actually understand what are challenges to accessing funding and then advocating for solutions. So an example of this, Carolina and I recently participated in a table convened by the national group Council on Foundations with local funders to really facilitate building bridges and collaboration amongst philanthropy. And then the third is removing our obstacles that impede or complicate funding from government. And SVP is not typically the lead in this, but an example includes recently working with the Nonprofit Association of Oregon and Northwest Health Foundation to advocate for the Nonprofit Modernization Act. So I recognize, and Bob's already said this, that this is an ambitious plan, but SVP has always been ambitious in the goals that we set, and we've demonstrated success in pursuing ambitious goals. So I think we're ready for the challenge, and I'm optimistic that we're well positioned to implement the plan. We advertised related to this event today that we'd also share how you can help advance the work. So I'm not going to get into it in much detail, but I will say we do need new partners. So if you know anyone in your network for whom you think the way that we partner with community-based organizations and initiatives would resonate, please let us know. And then the second is we invite you to engage. And whether you're already engaged and want to engage more deeply, or you haven't yet engaged, we do need partners with specific skill sets in finance and project management and fundraising strategy, business planning, commercial real estate, DEI, amongst others. But those are a few that stand out. So with that, I invite you to stay connected to board, to staff, to other partners, because it really will take all of us working together to make significant progress towards our goal of universal preschool. So that is the end of our formal presentation today, but just quickly before we shift to Q&A, I want to thank the dynamic team that worked really, really hard on this plan. And just so you all know, the plan is actually much more detailed than what I presented. That's pretty high level, but we do have a narrative with specific objectives, strategies, actions, and then metrics. So this was Melinda Gross, Chris Hart, Rob Aslett, Aaron Stavanis, Carolina, and then Bob and I led the team. So want to share my gratitude to the hard work that they did for many months over the first half of this year.